40,000 years ago, long before empires, before maps, before history itself, there was only the ocean, an endless, restless force stretching beyond the horizon, hiding secrets humanity had yet to discover. And somewhere, on the edge of this vast unknown, stood a group of early humans. They were not kings, not conquerors, not yet, but they were about to attempt something no one had ever dared before, to cross the open sea, with nothing but courage and instinct. The winds howled, the waves roared, as if warning them to turn back. But something deeper called to them: curiosity, survival, destiny. This was not just a journey, it was the beginning of a revolution, the birth of the world's first true seafarers. Before ships, before sails, before civilization, there were pioneers who looked at the ocean and refused to fear it. Instead, they chose to understand it. And in doing so, they changed human history forever. This is the story of the first sea kings. Long before recorded history, humans had already reached the islands we now call the Philippines. Dense jungles covered the land, alive with unfamiliar sounds and hidden dangers. These early people were survivors, shaped by nature, driven by necessity. They hunted along the shores, gathering food from both land and sea. The ocean was not yet their domain, but it fascinated them. They watched the tides rise and fall, endlessly repeating their rhythm. They saw fish move in schools, birds fly toward distant lands, and slowly, an idea began to form. What lies beyond the horizon? Could there be more land, more food, more life? But between them and the unknown stood the ocean, vast, dangerous, unforgiving. For generations, it remained a barrier, a line that could not be crossed. Until one day, someone dared to try. A simple thought, yet powerful enough to change everything. What if the water could carry them? What if it wasn't a barrier, but a path? That question would spark one of the greatest innovations in human history, the beginning of seafaring. It may have started with something simple, a floating piece of wood, a log drifting gently on water, carrying possibility within it. Curious hands pushed it, tested it, learned from it, and then they tried to ride it, balancing carefully, fighting fear, discovering something new. Water could support them. That realization changed everything. Soon, logs were tied together, forming the first rafts. Crude, fragile, but revolutionary. The first step into the ocean had been taken. At first, they stayed close to shore, afraid to go too far. But with every attempt, their confidence grew. They learned how water moved, how waves behaved. They learned how to paddle, how to balance, how to survive. And then, one day, they went further than ever before, beyond sight of land, surrounded by nothing but water. Fear gripped them, but they did not turn back. They pushed forward. Hours passed, then days, and just when hope began to fade, land appeared on the horizon. A new island, a new world. They had done it. Humanity had conquered the sea for the first time. But survival in the ocean required more than courage. It required knowledge. The sea was unpredictable, but not without patterns. And these early explorers began to notice them. The sun rose in the east and set in the west. The stars moved in predictable paths across the sky. Certain birds always flew toward land. Ocean currents carried them in specific directions. These were not random observations. They were the foundations of navigation. Slowly, carefully, knowledge was passed from one generation to the next. The ocean was no longer a mystery. It was becoming a map, a living, breathing guide. And those who could read it became masters of the sea. Journeys grew longer, more ambitious. Islands once thought unreachable were now within reach. The world was expanding, and they were leading the way. With skill came confidence. With confidence came mastery. These early Filipinos were no longer just survivors. They were explorers, navigators, pioneers of the ocean. Their boats became stronger, more reliable,
their journeys more precise. They began to travel not just to survive, but to connect. Islands were no longer isolated. They became part of a vast network. People traded food, tools, knowledge. Cultures began to blend, and at the center of it all was the sea. What was once feared was now their greatest ally. They had done what no one else had. They had turned the ocean into a highway, and in doing so, they became the world's first sea kings.
Their journeys did not stop. In fact, they were only just beginning. With every voyage, their worlds grew larger. New islands, new resources, new opportunities. Entire communities began to form along the coasts. Life became deeply connected to the ocean. It provided food, transport, and identity. Children grew up watching the sea, learning its secrets. They listened to stories of distant lands, of dangerous storms, and miraculous discoveries. And one day, they too would set sail, continuing the legacy of their ancestors. The spirit of exploration became part of who they were, not out of necessity, but out of passion. The ocean no longer separated them, it united them, and through it, they built one of the earliest maritime cultures in human history, a civilization shaped by waves, guided by stars, and driven by an unbreakable will to explore. As generations passed, their knowledge of the sea became sharper, deeper, almost instinctive. Boats were no longer simple rafts. They evolved into carefully crafted vessels. Stronger wood, tighter bindings, smarter designs. Every detail mattered. Every improvement meant survival. They learned to move as one, rowing in rhythm with the ocean. The sound of paddles striking water became a heartbeat of progress. And then came a breakthrough, the use of wind. Cloth stretched against the sky, capturing invisible power. For the first time, they were not just moving through the ocean, they were harnessing it. Journeys became faster, longer, more efficient. The horizon was no longer a limit, it was an invitation. Days turned into weeks at sea, yet they did not fear the distance. They trusted their knowledge, their instincts, their experience. The sun guided them by day, the stars guided them by night, and the ocean itself carried them forward. They were no longer just travelers. They were masters of movement across the sea. But the ocean was never fully tamed. It tested them, again and again. Storms rose without warning, violent and unforgiving. Waves towered above them like mountains of water. Lightning tore through the sky, illuminating fear in their eyes. Boats creaked under pressure, threatening to break apart. Every moment became a fight for survival. Hands gripped tightly, refusing to let go. Water flooded their vessels, chaos all around. And yet, they endured. Because turning back was no longer an option. They had come too far. They had learned too much. When the storm finally passed, silence followed. A calm ocean, as if nothing had happened. Exhausted, but alive, they looked at each other. Not with fear, but with pride. They had faced the ocean and survived. Each storm made them stronger. Each challenge turned them into legends. Beyond survival, they began to thrive. The ocean was no longer just a path. It was a source of life. They ventured into deeper waters where few would dare to go. They learned the movements of fish, the rhythms of marine life. Spears struck with precision beneath the surface. Nets captured abundance from the depths. The sea provided generously, and they learned to respect it in return. Every catch was shared, every success celebrated. Knowledge grew with each journey. They understood the creatures of the ocean, their patterns, their behavior. Even the great beasts of the sea were no longer mysteries. There was harmony between human and ocean, a balance built on respect and understanding. They were no longer strangers in the sea, they belonged to it. Perhaps their greatest achievement was not their strength, but their ability to navigate the unknown. Without maps, without tools, they created systems of knowledge. The stars became their compass, the sun, their guide, the wind, their signal, the waves, their language. They could read the ocean like a story unfolding. Every ripple, every current carried meaning, and they remembered it all.
passed down through generations, refined, perfected, preserved. Entire fleets could travel across open water without losing their way. They had achieved something extraordinary. They had turned instinct into science. By now, they were no longer just people of the land. They were people of the sea. Leaders emerged, strong, wise, experienced. Not rulers by force, but by knowledge. They guided their people across vast oceans. Their journeys connected distant worlds. Their skills inspired generations. Their courage became legend. They were the first to truly master the sea, the world's first sea kings.
This was their golden age, a time of growth, of connection, of expansion. Fleets of boats moved across the ocean with purpose. Trade flourished between islands. Cultures blended. Ideas spread. The ocean became a bridge, not a barrier. Communities thrived along the coasts. Life revolved around the sea. It shaped their identity, their traditions, their future. Children grew up learning its secrets from a young age. Elders passed down wisdom, ensuring nothing was lost. Knowledge became legacy, and legacy became power. They were no longer isolated tribes. They were part of something greater, a network, a civilization, connected by water. The ocean united them all, and under the golden sun, they flourished. Confident, skilled, unstoppable, true masters of the sea. Over time, their stories became legends, tales of great journeys, of impossible distances, of storms conquered and lands discovered. Around fires, under starlit skies, these stories lived on. Elders spoke, and children listened in awe. The ocean was no longer just water. It became something greater, a force, a spirit, a guide. Their connection to it, almost sacred. Every voyage carried meaning, every journey, a story waiting to be told. And though time would pass, these legends would never fade, because they were more than stories, they were history. But time changes everything. Generations came and went. The ocean remained, constant, eternal. The boats, the people, slowly faded into history, their footprints washed away by waves, their settlements reclaimed by nature, their tools buried beneath the sands of time. And yet, their legacy remained, hidden but not forgotten, waiting to be rediscovered. Today, the islands still stand. The ocean still moves, just as it did 40,000 years ago. But few remember those who first conquered it, those who dared to go beyond the horizon. They were not just survivors, they were innovators, explorers, visionaries. The first to transform fear into discovery. The first to turn the ocean into a path. Their story is not just history, it is a reminder of what humans are capable of. That even the greatest unknown can be conquered, and that sometimes the bravest step is into the unknown. Because 40,000 years ago, they didn't just cross the sea.